So remember when we warned everyone that Trump is trying to create an authoritarian dictatorship and warned everyone to vote because if elected, he would do that? Remember? Remember? Well, it's happening. Welcome to the Politoxic Podcast. I'm Sari Beth Rosenberg.
And I'm Little Miss BRB.
And we're here to talk all things Los Angeles, Trump, his Saturday birthday party military parade, the No Kings protests that are going to be happening all across this country, and just all the disgusting, horrific actions that he's taken today, for example, or in the past hour or two.
It's only been a day.
Yeah. So America's about to celebrate its 205th birthday. On Saturday, Trump will be celebrating his birthday and
50th birthday of the military. Is that
of the
correct?
army. So it's
The
just
Army.
the army. Okay. So, and then it's the Marines and others later this year, but it's the Army's 250th anniversary. And Trump was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina today. And first of all, he's going to restore all the military base names, like including Robert E. Lee, because of course he is, and other Confederate officers. He created a situation where he had the army booing Biden and Newsom and the press today. And he also said that he told reporters earlier that protesters of his Saturday's military parade, just the fact that it's a military parade is raise alarms. Protesters of this Saturday's military parade commemorating the anniversary would face very heavy force. Now, those could be empty words if we didn't look at what's going on in Los Angeles. So, Vanessa, you're on the ground in Los Angeles. What's going on? Can you give us kind of like the timeline of what's going on now? I know there's curfews tonight. Governor Newsom spoke. Tell us what's going on.
Well, pandemonium started in Los Angeles a few days ago. I believe this started on Saturday. Forgive me if that's incorrect, but I think this started on Saturday.
Yeah.
When ICE entered our communities and raided a Home Depot and were dragging people into the streets. And we're not taking kindly to that as a city and the process and all of the problems with how and why this is happening. And people are taken to the streets.
Yeah, because remember Trump said, "Oh no, we're just going to be going after the really bad guys." And I got in some arguments with people who told me they were voting for Trump, and not to worry, he's just going after the elite, the bad ones, the criminals. And I warned them that that wasn't the case. And here we are, right? Because he's sending ICE to Home Depot. Why?
Because they're trying to pick up the Hispanic workers that go to Home Depot. But it's just a very racist way that they are going about this. They're grabbing anybody who they might suspect. They're completely racially profiling people going to places like Home Depot. But the major problem I think that's happening here is they are arresting a lot of upstanding tax-paying citizens. They're not doing any type of process. They don't care if they're a US citizen or not. They definitely don't know if they're criminals or not because
No.
there's no rhyme or reason to why they're picking people up. And it's a big problem because this is kidnapping. They're kidnapping people off of the streets. And it's just such a dangerous precedent to set.
Yeah, and they're also going to graduations to kidnap parents. People are following the law. Literally, they're going to their scheduled court dates and then they are zip tying kids and their parents. Like I saw this one image of maybe the oldest kid was maybe 10 or 11.
I posted
And you posted that. Yeah. I can't remember where I'm looking at anything anymore. That image that just says it all. What are we doing here?
It's so much worse than just that image though now.
I
I mean,
know.
we're seeing all of these videos come out of them ripping babies out of the arms of their mother. And for people who claim to be pro-life and love the
Yeah.
children, this is the most heinous and disgusting display. And I don't know how anybody could claim to be religious of any nature, watching these things happen and being okay with it.
Yeah. And Governor Newsom addressed your state and the American people today. I want to hear your thoughts on that. But the line that stood out to me the most is he said that Trump is choosing theatrics over the safety of the people in Los Angeles, over the citizens, and over not the citizens. He's choosing theatrics over just the human life, human beings. To me, this just is so linked to what's happening on Saturday. I don't think it's a coincidence that he decided to do this week, also in light of what was going on Twitter and with his big, beautiful bill, the big, beautiful billionaire bill. We're not talking about that, right? Like Elon Musk, that whole thing. What? Forgot about that.
He's in the Epstein files. We're not talking about that. There's the bombshell reporting coming out about our voting machines and Kamala Harris. There's multiple stories coming out about that. But over all of this, it is just a public display and a photo backdrop for Fox News propaganda, because where this is happening in downtown, it's like a 5-block radius or something.
Yeah.
Very contained idea. Los Angeles, I believe it's like 70 miles, or like our city is so
I
huge
know.
and spread out. And this is in such a concentrated area of what's going on. We don't need thousands of Marines here, and we never did. And if you look back to all of the protests that we've had, the women's marches, BLM, they've been way larger than what's happened here yet. And there was no need for any of that. And I really just want to say right now that a few months ago, was it even when my state was burning to the ground and Los Angeles was on fire, no National Guard came to assist us in anything. The residents of Los Angeles pulled together and we took care of ourselves. And we're going to do the same with this, because I feel like this is so personal, because these are our neighbors, these are teachers, these are people that make our communities thrive and exist, and they're wonderful. And we're not going to let people just snatch our neighbors off
No.
the street. Not in Los Angeles, that's for
No,
sure.
no, this is a community response. And I think that, Trump is the master of television. This is a TV show for him. This is not, he doesn't care. This is a TV show. He's actually deported less people than the Biden administration at this point, and Obama, and he knows that. And the reporting's coming out. So this is just the red meat for their baseless base. And yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, honestly, like someone told me that their MAGA parents called them today in New York City and were like, be careful in New York. There's a big protest happening. And it's like, I guess if I sat and watched Fox News all day, I would also think, oh my God, like it's a scary, New York City's going to get scary with these protests. But these protests are primarily peaceful, right? Of course,
Peaceful.
largely peaceful. And
People
also
are
like,
dancing and we're eating tacos, and
yeah,
it's a very warm display. I'm going to say that there's always going to be instigators and agitators. And if we look back to previous protests, I'm just going to bring up an example like BLM and Umbrella Man. There's definitely gonna
yes,
be bad actors in the crowd that are going to come in to disturb and destroy. And so, to anyone that is protesting in Los Angeles, if you see that, I don't recommend that you engage in that. I think you should immediately walk away from that, or perhaps even sit down on the ground, because we don't
yes,
want them to think that that's what we're doing. I think we need to talk about the power of a silent protest and showing
mhm,
up and not screaming obscenities at them, just standing there in solidarity with our neighbors. It doesn't have to be that type of display. We don't have to be belligerent. We're
no,
showing up in, large numbers. And I think that the people that are protesting for the right reasons, be aware of those bad actors. That's not us. We're not destroying things. Like, we don't want people to kidnap our friends. That's
right,
why we're out there. We're not out there to burn Waymos. Yes, obviously that's happening and things have happened, but there's no reason for any type of military to be here overseeing anything. And 60 days is a really long time. And I think we need to
yes.
talk about the danger of that, because
To me,
that's
it's
an
an,
occupation. That's a 60-day
yeah.
occupation of a city.
And to me, that is just so offensive. As an offensive misuse of the military, first of all. Let's remember that they're not there to protect any people. They're there to guard federal property, those ICE detention centers. I think people don't realize that. Like, they're there to just like guard property.
They're there
They,
to stand and hold up the building is what they're there
yeah,
to do.
literally. And not literally. Well, literally, I guess they are.
Well, that's what they're supposed to be there to do. I did have a conversation with a veteran yesterday, and I'm
Mhm,
not going to name him, but
mhm.
know him. And he let me know that they're not supposed to be doing anything towards civilians. It is
Yeah,
solely to
no.
protect property. And that's more specifically that they shouldn't even have weapons, which is interesting because this is not a combat situation.
Right.
I think it's important to note also how the current president has spoken about our military members
Yeah.
and basically spat on them and calling them losers,
Suckers and losers. Yeah.
losers. And I also want to add that he has activated the National Guard to come here, and they're sleeping in a freaking basement of a
I was
federal
just gonna, I
building
was,
on
yeah.
top of each other with no cots and no water. So he
Yes.
obviously didn't care enough about our military to make sure that they had dinner when they got to Los Angeles for their
Yeah.
60
Or a
day
place to
stay.
sleep.
And I want to say something else too that this came up in a conversation today. Most of these members of the National Guard, these guys are signing up for this for health insurance
Yeah.
or to go to school. This is
Yeah.
their one weekend a month where they go to a base and they do a little training thing. I'm not diminishing what they do, but these are not combat fighters.
Right.
They're reserves. They're not guys that do this. And I would be willing to bet that a lot of their friends and family members are out there at these protests. I'm so
Mhm.
curious to how they would feel about that. You know,
Yeah.
some of them also have joined in order to help their parents' pathway to citizenship.
Yes. Yes.
And I would love to hope that these members of service are going to stand by their oath to the Constitution,
Mhm.
to the American people, and remember that they do not serve a king.
No. No.
They're
And
here for the people.
yeah, and that ties in with what's happening on Saturday. And I know a lot of people listening to us and watching us are feeling the same we are. I mean, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago that they flooded our zones. Like my zone is flooded. And it's like I don't know, I look exhausted because
We
of
are.
we're exhausted. I mean, if I look exhausted, yes,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. And we are exhausted. And but what keeps me going is knowing that I'm not wanting them to win. Like, our ancestors, some of our grandparents, our relatives, our family's relatives didn't fight fascism. Like the greatest generation didn't go and storm the beaches of Normandy only to have those same forces taking over our country, right? And right now is not the time to sorry guys, like I know some of you are like, I need to self-care. I said something to someone passing, someone I randomly know I was talking to one friend and then there was another person sitting there and I said something like, it's going to be like a crazy summer resisting fascism. And this girl who I barely know was like, I hope it's also like a nice, like she looked horrified. And it's like, sis, it's,
Where? What's happening?
have you opened your phone and not just seen the influencers who are still doing TikTok dances? Like, this is serious. Like, all your creature comforts are going to be gone or very minimized if we let this path continue. And that's all to say that if you're feeling like your zone has been flooded, like ours has, you need to now flood the zone this weekend. And Rachel Maddow every Monday night gives me hope. Shout out to Rachel. I miss you every night, but I get it. You have other things to do. Every Monday night, she floods the zone in her 9 o'clock hour and shows us all the protests and communities pushing back against this fascist regime, whether it's communities refusing to let ICE take certain people away or even show up on their street, right? Or just people, in little towns that are super red, there's a pocket of people protesting, showing their solidarity with democracy. And that is an amazing thing to watch. And we all have an opportunity on Saturday to resist by peacefully protesting.
Yes, that's right.
It doesn't matter if I know that like there's going to be big rallies and obviously in LA, all the major cities, but there's going to be one nearby you. Everywhere. And maybe if you've never gone to a protest before, this is the one to go to. We all need to show up and show the world and show this administration that the people do not consent to these king-like actions of this president. No kings, right? And that's how we flood the zone. And there's going to be tons of scary effing images of tanks and military being used to celebrate the birthday boy. Happy birthday. Like it's just so disgusting and cringe and tacky. But we can flood the zone with even more. And that's what he doesn't want, right? This whole thing is a TV show. Let's make our TV show even more appealing. Better than his. And we can because we're prettier, we're smarter, and we're cooler, and we are on the right side of history. Yes.
I did want to make a little addition to what you're just saying and touch on the flags conversation. Can we
Oh,
talk
yeah, I'm
about that?
curious about that.
Okay, so right now online, there is a little bit of discourse going on because people are saying to bring the American flag to the protests. I threaded that myself and I
I
agree
saw
with it.
that.
We are
Yeah.
not trying to diminish the Mexican flag or the California flag or anything, but I think it's really important that everyone understands the optics of having American flags because we are Americans. We are
Yes.
all Americans. And how powerful are the optics and the images going to be of the military possibly standing down united American citizens with the flag? It's for that is the visual because the world needs to know that the president potentially could be pointing the military directly at us citizens. And so bring the American flags, bring the
Yes.
pride flags, bring the Mexican flags, bring the Palestine flags, bring all of the flags that
Yes.
you want. But I want to stress that it's really important that the American flags are there. And the people that are asking you to do this understand optics,
Yes.
organizing, the importance of imagery, messaging, and what that's going to send out to the entire world. You know, photographers and journalists and people like us that are covering this, we're the
Mhm.
only ones who are doing it accurately because we're already seeing that the news is not doing us a justice. They are firing journalists left and right.
Yeah.
Just the other day, one from ABC was fired for his tweets. Look at the imagery of the people that are on the ground in there that are doing the work and posting this stuff. And that's how you can help in the protest. If you are at home and you can't go to a protest, or you have a baby, or you're disabled, and for whatever reason you can't make it to one, you can amplify the work of others. You can
Yes.
share the information that people are sharing, phone numbers, resources, things that they need to do. That is your way to protest from home. And to everybody who's out there that is in solidarity with California that doesn't live here, Los Angeles, we love you and we thank you and we appreciate you so much. And I think it's important that everybody understands that what's happening in Los Angeles could be in your front yard in a matter of days. And so I just hope
Yeah.
nobody looks away. Don't look away right now.
No. There's not the time to look away. It's not the time. And I agree with using the American flag, march with the Mexican flag and the American flag. If you want to march with the Palestinian flag, march with that and just have the American flag in those shots
Yes.
because this is the America we're fighting for. Is America perfect? No.
No.
And that flag many times has been used not for good, but we are fighting for what that flag represents and the highest ideals of this country, right? We're constantly trying to improve this democracy. Well, some of us are, while people like Trump and Vance and that entire administration are trying to destroy everything that's good in this nation, erase it.
I think it's important for us to take the power of our flag back as well, because personally for myself, since the whole MAGA movement, I very triggered by the
Me
American
too.
flag for a lot of reasons, because I feel as though the meaning of it has been hijacked by this disgusting movement. And I
Yeah.
think it's important for us to take it back and remember it's not their country,
No.
all of our country, regardless of if we agree on politics or religion or sexual preference. It is all of our country, and all of us have a right to be here. And we have to we have to come together as citizens.
We do. And rally around that flag.
We will be back with weekly episodes. You can catch us on Substack, Instagram, YouTube.
YouTube. We are so grateful to our OG followers and listeners. And we're going to keep it toxic, obviously, because we're the Polititoxic podcast. Thanks for listening to us.
Yeah.
Have a good night or day.